Scorpio, stop scrolling for a second, just long enough to feel your own breath return to you. Not the shallow, distracted breath you take when you're trying to keep up with the world, but the slow one that comes from deeper water, the one that belongs to the version of you that already knows when fate is moving. Because something is shifting again. And this time it isn't loud at first. It's quiet. It's precise. It's the kind of subtle pressure that builds behind your ribs, the kind of silence that feels like the universe is leaning closer, waiting to see if you'll notice the moment before it becomes undeniable. Between December 21 and December 24th, there's an energetic threshold you can step toward, not as a superstition, not as a fear, but as a focused awareness. Think of it like the air changing right before a storm, except this isn't chaos approaching. This is alignment. This is the sense that what has been delayed, what has been tangled, what has been sitting behind locked doors in your life may finally start to move. Not all at once, not in a perfect straight line, but with momentum, with signals, with coincidences that don't feel random anymore. Scorpio, you're not imagining that feeling that something is on the way. Your nervous system is simply honest. It detects pattern. It detects truth. It detects timing. You've been in a season where the lessons were expensive. Not always in money, but in energy. You paid with patience. You paid with nights you couldn't explain. You paid with the weight of holding back what you really felt. The way you kept your power contained because you didn't want to waste it on people who didn't deserve the fire. And yet, even when you were silent, you were changing. Even when you were still, the universe was reorganizing you from the inside. Scorpio's transformation is never loud at the beginning. It starts like a whisper in the dark. Then one day, the whisper becomes a door. This is why this message lands differently. Because the double fortune you've been hearing about isn't just money falling from the sky like a cartoon. Real fortune, the kind that changes your life without destroying your peace, arrives in two forms. The first is external, an opportunity, a new path, an opening where there used to be a wall. But the second is internal, clarity, courage, detachment from what drains you, and a sudden refusal to negotiate with your own worth. Scorpio, that second fortune is the one that makes the first fortune stay. Without it, any blessing becomes a leak. With it, even small openings become an entire new timeline. So let's talk about the shift that begins to activate around December 2024. This period can feel like a hinge, a point where your story stops swinging back and forth between almost and not yet, and instead begins to move toward now. You might feel it as restlessness or as unusual calm. You might feel it as a strong urge to clean, to organize, to cut off distractions, to protect your sleep, to tighten boundaries you used to keep loose. You might notice numbers repeating, names surfacing, old memories showing up like they've been called back. And yes, sometimes the universe uses the past to open the future, because unfinished energy is still energy, and Scorpio has a gift for turning endings into fuel. But here's the part you need to hear clearly. The wealth shift that's underway doesn't have to arrive as a suitcase of cash. It can arrive as the right message at the right time, a conversation that suddenly changes your leverage, a piece of information that makes you see what you couldn't see before, a decision you finally make that stops the slow bleeding, a person who underestimated you, suddenly realizing you're not available for the old dynamic anymore. Scorpio, fortune often begins with a reversal, and reversal often begins with one sentence. That's why you're being called into attention, not panic, not obsession, attention. If you can stay present, you'll recognize the signs without chasing them. If you can stay grounded, you'll receive without losing your balance. Because the energy of this window tends to reward the Scorpio, who doesn't beg, doesn't rush, doesn't cling, only aligns, only chooses, only moves like someone who knows their life is not a charity project for other people's chaos. You might feel drawn to fix something you've ignored, to send one message you've avoided, to update a resume, to apply for something, to pitch a client, to post a video, to start the thing you've been overthinking. The pull is not always comfortable. It's precise. It's your timeline nudging you. The second signal is a pause, an emotional freeze where you suddenly see the truth. Not the truth you wanted, but the truth that sets you free. You realize who supports you and who only likes you when you're small. You notice who gets loud when your life gets quiet. You notice who drains you with little emergencies right when you're about to make progress. Scorpio, this is where your fortune doubles. When you gain not only an opening, but discernment. When you stop feeding what cannot follow you into the next chapter. If your chest has felt heavy lately, it may not be bad energy. Sometimes it's simply your spirit carrying too many open tabs, too many emotional debts, too many unspoken boundaries. And this is why the wealth shift often begins with a clearing. You release the habit of proving yourself. You release the need to explain your choices to people who don't listen. You release the reflex to rescue everyone while you quietly drown. You don't become colder, you become cleaner. Cleaner energy, cleaner focus, cleaner direction. Scorpio, your strength becomes quiet again, but it becomes sharp. Now let's talk about what might move externally during this period. Around December 21-24, you might receive an unexpected invitation, a request, a collaboration, or a message that sounds simple but carries weight. It might be about money. It might be about work. It might be about a responsibility that comes with a reward, if you take it seriously. You might be asked to step up, to lead, to manage, to negotiate. Do not underestimate your ability to handle this. Scorpio's power is strategy. Scorpio sees beneath the surface. Scorpio hears what people don't say. If a door opens, walk through it slowly, not because you're afraid, but because you're wise. You may also notice an old chapter trying to speak again. Someone from your past, or a familiar pattern, might return to test whether you are still available for the old version of the story. Scorpio, not every return is romantic. Not every return is meant to be repeated. Sometimes a return is simply the universe letting you witness your own growth. You look at what once controlled you, and it no longer has teeth. You look at what once confused you, and now it looks obvious. That is wealth. That is spiritual wealth. That is emotional profit. And yes, for some of you, the fortune will be literal. A payment arrives, a debt resolves, a project lands, a client responds, a new revenue stream starts to form. You might get a chance to stabilize something that has been unstable for too long. If this happens, treat it like sacred water. Don't pour it into chaos. Don't spend it to soothe anxiety. Use it to build. Use it to protect your future self. Use it to create space. Space is a form of abundance that Scorpio rarely gets, but deeply needs. Because here's a secret. Scorpio's wealth increases fastest when Scorpio stops leaking energy. That's the hidden equation. Your money improves when your boundaries improve. Your opportunities multiply when you stop giving your best hours to the wrong people. Your luck rises when you stop calling your intuition overthinking. The universe doesn't have to shout at you. It just needs you to listen once. So during this window, if you feel the urge to retreat a little, to be selective, to be quiet, honor it. You are not being distant. You are being accurate. You are becoming the kind of Scorpio who doesn't chase proof. You become proof. You become the standard. And people feel it. Opportunities feel it. Even silence feels different around you. If you want to anchor this message, without turning it into superstition, do something simple and real. Choose one practical action that matches your highest timeline. Update something. Finish something. Apply for something. Send the message you've been delaying. Clean one corner of your environment like you're cleaning your mind. Scorpio, your physical world is often a mirror of your internal world. When you shift one, the other follows. Fortune loves movement, but it loves intentional movement most. And if you've been feeling like you're late, like you missed your moment, like life has already chosen for you, listen carefully. That thought is old energy. That's the voice of exhaustion, not destiny. Destiny doesn't punish Scorpio with lateness. Destiny trains Scorpio with depth. You had to become strong enough not to self-destruct when abundance arrives. You had to become wise enough not to confuse attention with love. You had to become clear enough not to buy temporary comfort with permanent regret. That's why it took time. That's why it took pressure. Not because you were denied, but because you were prepared. Now there is one warning I'll give you, and I'll say it gently, because Scorpio doesn't respond well to fear. Scorpio responds to truth. If someone around you benefits when you are confused, if someone becomes needy exactly when you become focused, if someone subtly jokes about your dreams, your money, your confidence, watch that. Not with hatred, with clarity. You don't have to fight them, you just have to stop feeding them. Distance is not cruelty. Distance is hygiene. Scorpio, your next level requires energetic hygiene. You may notice this person becoming louder, more dramatic, or strangely quiet as you rise. That's not a sign to shrink. That's a sign your frequency is changing. When you stop being available for the old script, the old actors panic. Let them. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to be aligned with yourself. And alignment is the most expensive thing in the universe because it costs you the addiction to approval. As December 2024 approaches, your dreams may intensify. Your intuition may spike. Your body may demand rest. Your appetite may shift. You might feel a strange desire to simplify your life, to reduce noise, to turn off the constant scrolling. These are not random. They're your system recalibrating. Scorpio, you are the kind of soul that feels changes before they arrive. That's not paranoia. That's sensitivity trained by survival and sharpened by transformation. And then, at some point, the shift becomes visible. It might happen quietly, an email, a message, a payment, a confirmation, or it might happen internally. One morning you wake up and realize you're done. Done begging, done waiting, done lowering your standards so other people can feel comfortable. That internal done is the beginning of your fortune. Because fortune doesn't just arrive to the hopeful, fortune arrives to the ready, and readiness has a sound. It sounds like calm. So stay with me, Scorpio, because I want to seal this in a way that supports you. If you feel resonance, anchor it. Like this video, not as a ritual, but as a decision. Subscribe so your spirit has a place to return when the world gets loud. And comment something simple. I open my destiny. Not because your comment controls the universe, but because your voice controls your nervous system, and your nervous system controls your choices, and choices build timelines. Scorpio, you are not powerless. You are precise power. Now let's bring the double fortune into a grounded image you can actually use. Picture two doors. One is labeled opportunity. The other is labeled discernment. Opportunity without discernment becomes chaos. Discernment without opportunity becomes isolation. But when both open together, you get wealth that doesn't cost your peace. You get love that doesn't cost your identity. You get progress that doesn't cost your health. That is the double fortune you're stepping toward. Not glitter, not fantasy, realignment. And when the window passes, don't panic if everything doesn't happen by a clock. Energy windows don't always deliver the full harvest instantly. Sometimes they deliver the seed, the contact, the insight, the courage. Then you grow it. Scorpio, you are not a passive character in your life. You are the author who writes with intensity. The universe may hand you a key, but you still choose which door to unlock. As we move toward the end of this message, I want to speak to the Scorpio who has been carrying quiet fear. Fear that if something good finally arrives, it will disappear again. Fear that you'll get your hopes up and be disappointed. Fear that you'll be betrayed the moment you relax. Scorpio, that fear is understandable. It was shaped by real experiences. But it is not a prophecy. It is an echo. You are allowed to hope without clinging. You are allowed to receive without bracing for impact. You are allowed to step into abundance without waiting for punishment. You are not naive for wanting a better life. You are brave. So here is the soft truth to keep in your pocket as December 2024 unfolds. Move like someone who trusts themselves. Not like someone who needs certainty from the outside world. If a message arrives, breathe before you answer. If an offer appears, read the fine print. If an old person returns, don't time travel back into your old body. Stay in your new self. Let them meet the Scorpio you are now, not the Scorpio they remember controlling. And if nothing dramatic happens, do not call it failure. Some shifts are invisible at first. Some shifts happen in the spirit before they show up in the bank account. Some shifts happen as a boundary you finally keep. Some shifts happen as a habit you finally stop. These are wealth shifts too. Scorpio, your life changes in layers, and the deepest layer is always the one that lasts. This narrative is a mirror. A reflection of a potential timeline, a story whispered into the universe for those who are meant to hear it. If it resonates, take what strengthens you. Hold the parts that feel like truth in your bones. If it doesn't, let it pass like cloud shadow over water, because not every message is for every soul, and you do not need fear to be faithful to your path. Let this be an invitation to trust your intuition, to stay grounded, and to make wise choices that protect your peace as you move toward abundance. Because your power is real, your discernment is sacred, and the most beautiful fortune is the one that arrives without stealing your soul. Scorpio, the gate doesn't need drama to open. Sometimes it opens with a breath. Sometimes it opens with one decision, and sometimes it opens the moment you finally believe you deserve what you keep asking the universe for. Stay awake, stay gentle, stay sharp. The wealth shift is underway, not as a guarantee carved in stone, but as a direction your life can follow when you choose alignment over fear. And if you're ready, whisper it now, even if only to yourself. I choose the higher timeline.